Not only do you prepare us for being able to revise and for us to see our strengths and weaknesses, because that's very important. When you know your strengths and you know your weaknesses, especially your weaknesses, then you know where you're going to fall short. And if someone says you need to rewrite this paragraph, you go, oh, and you can look at it because you've taught us how to look at it and see what we're doing wrong, because everybody makes their own personal same mistake over and over. And what's nice, I mean, you share with us your own personal little things that you have to catch yourself doing, and you train us to pick up on ours, because we may not see it, but you do. So not only do you train us to do that, so that whenever we do have to revise something, we're in much better shape and can do it a whole lot faster. Also, you do train us about how to think about that author lifestyle, especially, oh, what is it? When we did Past the Pulitzer, what was the second class?
Oh, in Novel Selling You.
Yes, Novel Selling You. And we also, even when we're working in salon, a lot of the things that we do, you are preparing us to be comfortable dealing with people, hearing our stuff. I mean, we're reading or writing out loud, which is one of the things you do as an author if you're having a reading. And quite honestly, that's scary. I mean, a lot of people go, big deal. But when you're called on to read your own words out loud to a group of people, initially it's terrifying, and you have got to adjust your thinking. Well, that's nothing for us. Why? Because we've been doing it forever in salon, and we're very comfortable reading out loud words we just started writing 20 minutes ago. So it's like nothing's even polished. We're reading rough drafts and very comfortable doing it, and we don't think twice about it. Novel Selling You, you help us and work through some of the very uncomfortable things and teach us how to do it. You know, you kind of forced us to learn how to do it ourselves. And that is extremely important, because if you don't know how to do it yourself, you don't know how to get someone to do it for you to where they sound like you. So it's not like, well, I'll just get somebody else to do it. No, you really do need to understand why you're doing it, what needs to be done about it, how it's done. You actually need to put boots on the ground and suffer through it. It's not pleasant for those of us who are just not into social media, but it's very critical and it's very important, and it does make us very comfortable dealing with people. I mean, we talk to agents. I mean, we just had our online retreat where one of the things we did was have one-on-ones with an agent. We talked to other authors who are bestsellers. You just get us to the point to where we are very comfortable doing this, to where when we hit that learning curve, yes, we've got to walk through it, but it's once we take, hold our breath and walk through it, it's a more comfortable place than we would have had if we were trying to do this on our own. There's just no comparison between being able to be part of a community to where not only do you train us, but we have other people who can hold our hands as we're moving forward and cheer us on, who have been there before us, that we can ask questions. It's just, it's amazing. I know one of the things when I was studying script writing was one of the things they told us first, that very first thing before we ever really started any classes was, one of the things you have to learn is you're going to have to learn your new normal, because they had discovered that a lot of screenwriters, especially those kids who were like in UCLA or USC, and they suddenly got a script optioned in college and with a movie studio, as soon as that happened, they could not adjust to the lifestyle, and they usually disappeared for years, a decade. A lot of them came back, but it's such a huge shock whenever you're immediately thrown into it, that it's overwhelming. We're not. Those of us in the writing gym, when it happens, yeah, we have the initial shock. We have the oh my God, oh my God. And it was really, really hard this time because it was like, oh my God, I can do both. So it was like doubly powerful. And you have those moments and you just are exploding. But because you've been told what to expect, we have seen it from everybody else who's gone through it. You're able to deal with it a whole lot better and easier. And it's just, it was really nice to be able to get in touch with you, because I looked at the time and I go, oh no, who expects to get this call? It was 7 o'clock at night for me. I had to calm down a little bit before I could contact you. And actually I had to, I had that initial reaction, oh no. And then I'm going, okay, let me see what the edits are. And then it was like, oh my God, I think I can do this. Then I have to have that initial reaction again. Then I got to scream a little bit. It's 9 o'clock your time before I ever really got a chance to try to connect up with you. But I'm like, oh no, I want to accept this immediately. Then you're scared. You don't want to sound like an idiot. Saying not enough, what's saying too much, what's whatever. I was able to get in touch with you. I could read my email to you and you talked to me through it. Then when I sent it with confidence. I wasn't concerned I had done something idiotic. That's a huge, huge deal. I just cannot express how big it is. I've been writing for a while and worked with a lot of professionals, etc. And it really seriously doesn't matter in ways how experienced you are, because when you hit that next wall, it's like doing it all over again. And now that I've experienced it, I know exactly what they were trying to teach us before we even started our first word of a script. In fact, we had to learn the steps of how. That was the first thing we did, was learn the steps of hitting each new normal before we even started. And I was like, this is different. But you do the same thing. And what I've discovered, it is extremely important in being able to live that author lifestyle. And you may have felt, like I went around the rabbit trail or around the tree. But the truth of the matter is, being able to live the author lifestyle doesn't just mean signing books, going to the book fairs. It also means behind the scenes, when you're by yourself, to be able to calm your spirit and to be able to do these things and move forward with confidence. That is what you give us. So when someone throws something at you, like, I want you to speak to this group, you go, okay, we can do that. And if we can't, we know a resource to go to and you will direct us in the right directions. I believe that is extremely important in living the author lifestyle, is being able to adjust to it.
Oh my gosh, that is such an important distinction. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share all of that information and your experience and wisdom. We have a question from one of our listeners who's listening live, and I'm sorry if I butcher your name, but Perobi is wondering, facing rejections, did you ever feel insecure that your manuscript would be taken by someone else, as when we send it to a publishing house and at times there's no response or rejection? It makes me wonder and insecure that my story will be gone and taken over by someone. How do you deal with such insecurity? I have some ideas on that, but I would love to hear your ideas, Jeannie.
First off, one of the things that I have discovered, it is a fear more with amateur writers than it is with professional writers. As far as screenwriters are concerned, we always know that it's a possibility, but normally who steals your work are people who are not creative, or they're not to the level that they can generate their own material, or you've got a small publishing house just can't get people to submit to them. If someone's going to steal your work, it's going to be someone who is not professional. Uh, Even if someone steals your work, you can, as a writer, as a professional writer who knows what you're doing, you can take that same concept and rewrite it and have a brand new work. And quite honestly, it's going to be better than the original because you've already thought out the original. You've already written it. So you're actually talking about elevating this work. And you just change the names of whatever and know that you're not going to send it back out to someone who is not a professional. But that's who's going to steal, is the people who are not truly professionals. Professionals don't have to. There's so much content out there. They don't need to steal.
Right. And I mean, those are all really valid points. And it is true that people do, quote unquote, steal other people's work. But my point, you know, and I was in a book negotiation with a very large, reputable publisher that we all know. And then a year later, they put out a book on my same concept written by someone else. I mean, these things happen. And what can I say about that? I can say that my idea was so good that this very prominent publishing house wanted to copy my idea. And guess what? You know, I have a book out there on pantsing, and it's done very well. Thank you very much. I mean, it does happen that people steal.
It does. It absolutely. It absolutely does happen. Quite honestly, there are reputable companies that will steal it. They will look for ideas. A lot of people say, well, copyright it, but from what I have recently discovered, there are people who access the copyrights and read the things that are copyrighted, and then they change it 21%. That's all you have to change it, and it's a brand new book. So it's out there, but if that's your fear, it's going to keep you from being a success. You have to just realize that, yeah, I spent years working on this, but I'll tell you, the next time you rewrite it, it's not going to take you as long. I mean, I'm having to do that now. And I'm loving the new version like a bajillion times more. It's going to do like a ton better.
Right. So you are in the process of rewriting your first published novel. That's what you're saying. Well, I want to get back to, you know, that idea of stealing, because the corollary to that, you know, okay, so we've acknowledged that stealing does exist, but the way that I really look at that, you know, when this publisher borrowed my idea and had someone else write it, there's a lot of flattery there, right? One, my idea is really powerful. But two, at the end of the day, nobody can write that book the way that I would write it. That doesn't mean that the version that they came out with wasn't good. I'm sure it was, and people love it and are benefiting from it. But my story is my story. My voice is my voice. And Jeannie, you and I see this every week over in Salon, right? So I give a prompt every week. Sometimes it's general, sometimes it's specific. And if there are 6 people there, there are 6 very different stories. Now, in theory, we are all writing the same thing. But none of us is going to write that in the same way. And that's what makes story. Because at the end of the day, there are 7 stories to be told. 7 total stories to be told in the world. And we've found enough variations on that theme to tell that story for thousands of years. So I don't believe that someone can steal your ideas, because there are only 7 stories. We're all just telling different versions of those stories. And what carries that is our ability to storytell, our ability to find our voice, and to get a compelling, relatable story out into the world. So I don't worry about thievery. Can it happen? Well, sure, but nobody can tell your story the way that you tell it.
I remember when I first started out, you know, it was a fear. It was one of those fears that you had to get over, or you would never, ever send your work out. And that was what was important. But I will say, you know, when you're talking about it, this was one of the things that Bob said about my writing was that unique voice. That is one of the things that they're looking for. You can take the same concept and rewrite it. Everybody has a different voice, and you just need to make sure that you write in your voice and don't try to copy anybody else. Don't let it stop you. The deal is, if they don't change it 21%, yeah, they stole your idea. But if they change it more than 21%, it's kind of a new thing.
This is really interesting in light of what you were talking about before around, confidence, because one of the things that results from having confidence is the ability to let go, right? And I think about, and I don't remember if anybody who's listening right now can remember which Will Smith song it is. He talks about the moment where he's driving his first newborn home, and he's driving like 20 miles an hour, and he's like yelling at people like, get away from my car, I've got a baby in here. I've ruined his rap song, but like there's this phenomenon probably with your firstborn where you're like, oh my gosh, I've got a baby in the car. And like by the time you're on kid 2 or 3 or 4, you're like, all right, out of the way, like here I come. And I think that you get to a point of experience with your literary babies.
Yes.
You hold on really tightly at the beginning. And as you gain more experience and true confidence, you know when it's time to let go. You know when it's time to let somebody else's eyes. You trust your instincts on who you should share it with. You get that confidence. Is that resonating with you at all, Jeannie?
Definitely. I remember those times when I was scared about someone stealing, because I did know things that had been stolen. But when it started being pointed out to me that a lot of course, started out as a screenwriter, so we're talking production companies, that a lot of production companies who were doing that sort of thing were the ones that were just starting out, that were making ultra low budget things, and they really couldn't find any good scripts out there. So they were looking, stealing, whatever, in order to find that. I mean, quite honestly, it's so low budget, very few people are going to see it anyway. Write a better version. And I think that's what kind of eased my my worries. But there are, like you said, I know there are some films, one of them being Notting Hill, that was literally ripped off from someone else's script, but it was changed over 21%. They flipped. It was written for a female lead, and they flipped it to a male lead. It does happen, and it happens at all levels. However, you can create, and you can take an idea and tell it in so many different ways. And you've got to be able to find your voice. It is your own unique something, and if someone takes it and rewrites it, it's never going to be yours.
Absolutely.
Never.
Well, this may be a record for the Writing Gym. This may be the longest celebration that we've ever done, but you have a lot to celebrate. I mean, this is a huge pinnacle moment of your life. You're working on this big Hollywood project. You've gotten a contract with a literary agent all within the same month. So delighted and proud to have you in the Writing Gym, Jeannie.
Well, thank you. It has been wonderful. This is just the community to be in order to advance your writing skills and your confidence level. And this is very important. Having the right people and community to be able to share with, because a lot of when you're in a writing group where they're not at that level, then you get some bad information. You don't get that confidence and that support. I can't say enough about how great and wonderful being a part of the Writing Gym has been, and how it has helped me. And I could not do it without the 2 paragraphs. And to me, that's a celebration for you too, because you helped me reach that point. And if it wasn't for my work being at that point, then there is no way I could do both of these things. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Until next time, happy writing.